Hi everyone, it's Vicky from createafashionbrand.com and fashionserviceshongkong.com. This is the first video of 2017, so Happy New Year. I hope this year is going to be great for your fashion brand and for me too. I'm looking forward to it. And last week we had a couple of comments on our main video from Toodlepip, and I have to apologise. I don't have your website or brand name, or even know if you're a boy or a girl. So I'm sorry I can't kind of give you a personal hi, or even a little tip, because I will always look at websites if you tell me where you're from, and help you out. But Toodlepip has put down two questions, so they're slightly different, so I'm going to split them into two videos. And the first question is, how do MOQs work with regards to sizing and colorways? Okay, so firstly, MOQ, it stands for minimum order quantity, and it's a number that a factory will give you when you are trying to make clothing, okay? So they will say that the minimum order quantity, the MOQ, is 100 units or 100 pieces. Now, units or pieces just means garments, so a fully made, finished garments. They want 100 fully made garments, okay? Now, in general, I'll give the general kind of meaning of it and how you break that down, and then we'll go into some kind of more complicated things, because it can be a bit more complicated than you think. So in general, if a factory gives you an MOQ, let's say of 100 units, 100 garments, they will always expect to grade your sizes up and down, regardless of the design or whatever you give them. They're expecting for every design that you know, they have to do some grading, because generally people don't order one size of a garment, they order 5 or 6, which is the average. So that part, the sizing, will generally be included. So if you've got, let's say, the MOQ is 50 units, so 50 garments, and you've got 5 sizes, then you can order 10 pieces per size for that style, for that design, okay? Because that makes up the 50 MOQ. Now, it doesn't have to be equally 10, 10, 10, 10. You can have 2 and 5 and 20 and whatever along all of your sizing. You need to break that down and tell them exactly, you know, how you want to split that. And more people order things which are the average size than they do the kind of ends, just so that's a little tip, because those are the ones that will sell out more, so you generally order more of them. But as long as the whole total adds up to your MOQ, then that's perfectly fine. Now, in terms of colour, now this is where it can get a little tricky. Okay, so if you've got one fabric, let's say we use our t-shirt, and you want to do a black, a white, and I don't know, a blue. If it is the same fabric, then most factories will say that that is also included in your MOQ. Okay, so you could order, let's say, small, 2 white, 2 black, 2 blue. As long as all of that adds up, again, to your MOQ number, your 50 or whatever it is, then that should be fine. Now, the only problem with that is, and this was where it starts to get a little bit tricky, there are two things. Factories are technical. They will have no opinion about whether they like your garment, they don't like your garment. To them, it doesn't matter. They are all about making, okay? So you have to start thinking with like a little technical head. So does it require a new pattern, new measurements? Is the machinery going to change when they make it? And that will change depending on the fabric, okay? So for example, if you're doing a t-shirt and they can use the same pattern because it's the same measurement, same shape, same everything, but you're doing it in 3 different colors, then generally that's included, that's fine. If, for example, you then want to do it in a woven fabric, because jersey fabrics are actually stretchy, they're knitted fabrics, they use overlocking machines. A woven machine doesn't, it uses a sewing machine. and you might finish it with overlocking, but generally to stitch it together you need a sewing machine. It also requires different measurements. So the pattern for a woven fabric and a pattern for a jersey fabric are going to be two different things. So even if it's the same design and you're just changing the fabric, they might regard that as a completely separate style. You should too, actually. In terms of organization, it's usually easier to keep track of things if you split them into different fabrics and stuff like that. But they will definitely split it because it requires different machinery, a new pattern to be made, probably a new tech pack because it will be different measurements, a new set of blocks, a new sample. And the other thing you've got to remember about fabrics and colours is that the factory itself buys everything in. So they buy in the fabrics, they buy in the trims, they buy in the thread, but they're making the garment itself. If they then, let's say, send something out to be printed or embroidered, or they need a new fabric for something, the places that they go to get that done also have MOQs, okay? So your printing factory will have an MOQ, so your embroidery factory, they're usually a little bit lower than garment factories because they're expecting to do smaller things and stuff like that. But your fabric mill, where they have to source the fabric from, will also have an MOQ. Okay, now that's not usually a problem if you're buying in fabric that's already available. It can just affect you if you're asking for fabric to be dyed, for example, a very specific colour, something like that. So they might say to you, we can't do that, we have to buy in an available colour, an available fabric. We won't be able to meet the minimums of the dyeing house to dye that specific Pantone colour or whatever it is, okay? So in terms of the actual MOQ breakdown for the factory, you will need to kind of discuss that with them and really have a bit of a dialogue with them so you know what their MOQs are, what they're restricted by as well, not just for you. But in general, it will include all sizes and most of the time all of your designs. Now the only time that's going to be different, you have to look at the wording and make it obviously very clear when you're having that conversation with your factory. Is that an MOQ in total? So all designs, all sizes, all everything? Or is that per style? And a style is basically a design. So that can be as small as, let's say you've got your t-shirt company, and you've got a scoop neck tee and you've got a V-neck tee. Everything else the same fabric, same colour, same measurement, same sleeve length, same everything. They will still need to cut a new pattern for the front piece of that t-shirt because one has a V-neck and one has a scoop neck, right, a round neck. Those are regarded, even though they're exactly the same apart from the neck, as different styles, as different garments. So if they're saying to you per style, it would be, say, their MOQ is 200, 200 for the V-neck, 200 for the scoop neck, okay? But again, you've really got to check this all with your factory. In general, everything is included, but please do check because you don't want to kind of go through the sampling process, get to the end, and then suddenly realize you've got to order a ton load of products that you might not be able to budget for. So it's always really good to get all that information up front and also written down, you know, because if they've written it down in an email or anything like that, then you can show it to them at the end if they try and kind of change their terms. Another really good tip on dealing with factories is be nice. You know, get a really good relationship going with them. Pick your battles if there are things going wrong. And there's usually, you know, teething problems as you start. But the more you kind of have a relationship with them, get back to them quickly, help them explain things, you know, all that kind of stuff, the more likely they are to be a bit more flexible, okay? So pay them on time, you know, get everything done efficiently, make sure they're not chasing you and all that kind of stuff, because then they do better work for you as well. So be nice to your factory. Okay, so next week we're going to talk about repeating products. Toodlepip has asked The second question about doing the same kind of product but with different fabrics and the cost of sampling on that. So we're going to do that next week. But for now, if you've got a question in general, please don't forget to pop that on our 5-minute fashion brand video. It's the main one, you can't miss it. Big yellow letters with a blue background. If you've got a question about this video, please feel free to comment below, ask more questions, chat to me, I don't mind at all. And don't forget, if you are leaving a comment, a question for the 5-minute fashion brand videos, please tell me maybe who you are, a name, and even your brand or website, because then I can go and have a look and maybe give you a nice little tip or helping hand along with the videos. If you don't want that, just let me know as well, that's no problem. But I will see you next week for the next video.